Today we're going to talk about multiplying decimals by decimals using picture models. 2 days ago you guys learned about multiplying whole numbers times decimals using these cool picture models, and you've done a little practice since then. So today I'm going to show you what it would look like to do a decimal, to multiply a decimal times a decimal, okay? So for this activity, I like to use highlighters because at a certain point we need these to overlap one another, and it's a little easier to see. So if you have some highlighters handy, you can use those, or some light colored markers. I think that a yellow and maybe a green or a pink would work fine too. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at 2/10 times 6/10. That's supposed to be, there's actually a decimal there, but you can't see it. I'll make it bigger. So 2/10 times 6/10. So what you're going to do is we're going to mark off we'll mark off 2/10 first. So, and it doesn't matter. I can go this way with 2/10 and this way with 6/10, or either way. But I'm going to go down first. So I'm going to mark off 2/10 with my highlighter, with my pink highlighter. So I have now shaded in 2/10. Then I'm going to take my yellow highlighter and I'm going to shade in 6/10, but going in the opposite direction, like this. So 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, and 6/10. Now, you can see in this little area where the two of these colors have intersected each other, okay, it kind of turned orange, right? Okay, so this ends up being the product of 2/10 times 6/10. So 2/10 times 6/10 ends up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And if you think about it, you probably already know your basic facts. So 2/10 times 6/10 ends up being 12/10. Okay, let's try another one. Let's try 4/10 times 7/10. So I'm going to highlight 4/10 going downward. Okay. And then I'm going to highlight 7/10 going in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And again, we find our product where the two colors have intersected each other. Okay, so if I know 7 times 4 is 28, I know that 4/10 times 7/10 also equals 2800. Sorry, and this is 1200. I think I said 12/10 and I meant to say 1200. Now, I bet you're noticing now that when you multiply a decimal times a decimal, your product ends up being smaller, doesn't it? Isn't that crazy? 2800 is smaller than the two factors that it was multiplied to get, right? So here's what you need to understand. Remember, we've had that conversation before about how really decimals are fractions. So they're parts of numbers. So when we multiply a part times a part, it's like you're taking a part apart, if that makes sense. You're taking a part and you're taking it apart. So it's almost like you're dividing even more when you multiply two decimals together. I think we should do one more example, and then we will move on to a little bit of practice for later on. So let's just try 3/10 times 6/10. Okay, I'm just going to shade in 3/10 going downward. There's my 3/10. Then I'm going to shade in my 6/10 going in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. And you can see that where it overlaps, where the two base 10 overlap each other, is where our product lies. So I know that 3 times 6 is 18. And so if I counted each one of these little squares, I could see that indeed I have 18 orange squares. So that would be 18, obviously out of 100. So this would be 18 hundredths because I took a part of another part.